I wanted to bring this up, this point right here. Who do you think is responsible for the fact that this all got really, really bad, the censorship and everything? First and foremost,
Adolf Hitler.
I'm not going to blame the victims. I think it's the left, the Democrats, the political establishment. They want the censorship. Progressives cheered it on. And then they started getting censored going, oh no, why am I getting banned? Well, because you empowered them to do this. Interestingly, though, one of the politicians that we have, Ted Cruz, who has been very vocal about censorship and calling it out, said something very interesting. The Blaze reports, Ted Cruz, you can blame the Trump administration for not reining in big tech censorship.
Yes.
Bingo.
I could never get the people in the administration executing the policy to get serious about stopping censorship. Here, Ted Cruz. Wow.
100%.
Yeah.
It was an entire 4 years in office, and that we had the power. Republicans had the power. I don't know if I consider myself a Republican anymore, but we didn't do anything. And it was almost the biggest complaint we had because it was just getting worse and worse and worse. I remember every year leading up to the 2020 election, everyone was saying, at least on the right-wing sphere, was saying, that it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And it just kept going and no one did anything.
And I and many others said, Trump will not win if they don't fight back. And in 2018, I said, one of my favorite segments is Republicans are too stupid to stop censorship.
And spineless.
Yeah. Ignorant, for sure.
No. Don't say ignorant. Because
they
don't
didn't
say
know
ignorant. Trump was not ignorant.
He was.
Trump knew,
He knew.
and had everyone around him, all of his core support base, screaming at him, hey, please, we're getting obliterated here. His core base of supporters, his personalities that kind of brought him into the situation, into the position where he got to be president, all of those core people were taken out one by one, and they were screaming, help, help, help. And then Donald Trump didn't do nothing. And now we're here today where Twitter just announced, I don't know if you've seen this, Twitter announced that they banned Donald Trump for life.
Yes.
Even if he
runs
decides to run for president of the United States.
Ian, I went to the White House with Bill Ottman. I'm saying Bill Ottman for the people who don't, because obviously you know who Bill is. So I went with Bill. He's the CEO of Minds. Ian and Bill are, I'm sure there were other co-founders, but you were two of the co-founders for Minds. Minds, for those that aren't familiar, is a social media platform you can use. It's actually got tons of functionality. It's great. And we went to the social media summit. Why? Because the Trump administration knew this was a problem. I thought it was going to be an actual conversation where I'd be able to go in and see some people in the administration or in government and say, here's what I think the issue is. Now, I actually said, I was asked in an interview, what are you going there for? And I said, I think conservatives too often think they're the only ones being censored. And there are many progressives who are anti-establishment or anti-war who are getting censored too. That's why it's not about just conservatives. It's about allowing people the right to speak before it's too late. Instead, Donald Trump put on what I would call a VIP Trump rally. Now, mind you, Donald Trump is hilarious. It really is. It was a stand-up routine. It was self-deprecating humor. He was talking. It was almost like Jon Stewart level kind of comedy, and I was impressed. And I'm like, well, we're not getting anything done today. Someone asks a question. So they're doing Q&A, and then someone said, will you join to Trump directly? Will you join any other social media platform? And Trump goes, which one? Which one? And that was it. He never did.
He has no idea what he was doing. He doesn't understand technology. He never talked about fusion power. He never talked about. He would say we need to ban Section 230. Like he's a moron. He's not a moron. He was ignorant of technology, unfortunately.
Not really. I mean, he used Twitter as a bully pulpit.
True,
he used Twitter as a way to speak to the people directly away from the mainstream media. So you can't say he was totally ignorant of it. He knew the game. He played the game very well.
He played it very poorly because he was banned.
For himself.
I mean, he just destroyed his legacy.
But then when it came to standing up for the people that supported him, he let's be honest here, he didn't do anything for him.
He didn't know how.
And it wasn't only just tech. It was also the Second Amendment. He did nothing in favor of the Second Amendment when he had the House. He had the Senate. He could have passed legislation that could have helped the Second Amendment. Didn't do any of that as well.
Well, hold on. That's the establishment Republican Party.
Yeah.
The first 2 years Trump was in office, it was Paul Ryan. The Republicans who are in power are like, here's the way I describe it. When Trump and Bernie led their siege on the establishment tower, Bernie eventually got bought out and joined the ranks, thinking that was the best way in. Trump was just banging on the door, screaming. Once he got in, the establishment Republicans were like, well, we normally don't have to work. All of a sudden, now we got this guy yelling at us, claiming he's in charge, and now we have to do work. I retire, I quit, I'm out, I'm not running for re-election, and they were just bowing out like crazy.
Interesting.
And then the Democrats came in and won control of the House. So the Republicans in 2016, 17, and 18, or I should say 2017 and 18, to the end of 2018, they didn't want to do anything, and they didn't do anything. So Trump didn't have them in his corner. Now that Trump is out and it's back to Biden, the establishment is back in control. They're going to lock the doors. Bernie's going to get the boot. It's not going to happen the way the progressives and the left populists thought it was going to happen. Censorship is going to get extreme to the point where, well, they're already banning progressives. Yeah. Tons of progressive YouTube channels got nuked recently. And I'm sitting here going, listen, I'm not going to rag on these people. I'm not going to insult them. I'm not going to mock them and say, told you so. I'm going to say, welcome to the fight. Now, can we please get a serious conversation about why you need to be allowed to speak? Hopefully, now that they're listening, we can have some kind of majority that opposes censorship.
Where would that conversation happen when people are being censored for even?
And you can't go outside, and you can't go to the bar, and you can't have events.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
here,
so
YouTube,
depressing.
you can kind of have a conversation on YouTube as long as you don't insult people.
I mean, YouTube is pretty bad in a lot of ways, but we were talking a little bit before the show. It's not as bad as a lot of people think it is.
Yeah, it's better than most, you know.
Yeah, like YouTube takes intent into question when it comes to hate speech. Seriously.
Yeah. And Twitter doesn't, Instagram doesn't, none of those do.
I think
there are people that are banned off of everything but YouTube. Like the people that still have their YouTube but are banned off everything else.
I was thinking maybe the problem with free speech and forcing free speech on these social networks is you want to allow the private networks to maintain control of their terms of service, because it becomes kind of authoritarian when you tell them how to
They
run their
keep
company.
changing their terms of services. I signed a term of services with the social media companies, and they keep changing it.
True.
Yep.
That's not fair, especially with individuals that put their whole livelihoods, their whole business, their whole salary on social media, and then they just change the rules midway.
And they'll
How's
say
that
by
fair?
using the
Listen.
service, you would accept it automatically.
Why-
And
Yeah.
plus the terms will be like 45 pages long, which is
Seriously.
like almost
Yeah.
impossible for a human to go through.
Why don't we just, I don't know, maybe create something new or treat some of these social networks like a utility in the sense that there's no banning at all. If someone goes out in the middle of the street and screams a death threat at somebody else, yeah, the cops will arrest you for that. You can't do that. You can't go around screaming, I'm going to, do this to you or do that to you. It's illegal. So what if there was just a platform that was that functioned very similarly to if you were walking around outside? You can buy ad space on it. It's the certain ad space on the site is controlled by individuals who've bought the rights to run ads on it or whatever. And listen, here's the way I put it. A lot of these advertisers freak out because they're like, I don't want to run ads on Twitter because people on Twitter say mean words. And I'm like, you put up a billboard in like LA, for instance. What's going to stop some crazy racist guy from standing in front of your billboard screaming and then someone taking a picture and putting it online?
Right.
You can't escape that. So maybe we need, and honestly, I think it's probably, it's kind of, I don't know, maybe a moot point of this as of now, because we've said it so many times. We need a social media platform that is a utility. It doesn't have to be Twitter. And you know what? Trump could have done it. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Trump could have got on Parler, Gab, or Minds. He could have even made his own broadcast platform where you go to Trump's, the wordoftrump.com, and it gave you his personal Twitter feed. He could have even done that. And then people would have followed. Trump could have launched his own network. He could have done everything, and he did nothing.
Man, even if he would have joined just one of them, whether it be Gab, Minds, one of these other ones, it would send such a massive wave of people to join just to be made aware of it, And it's like he never did it. It's messed up.
Would you suggest using the government to make one then, like a socialist type of utility?
No.
I don't think that's socialist. Socialism is owning the means of production.
Yeah,
publicly owned with a Bill of Rights, the Bill of Rights guarantee. So the reason I like the idea of a public utility social platform is because we have the First Amendment. That means you can go on there and you can say dumb opinions, whether you're left, right, whatever. And there is speech that is illegal. And I think for the most part, there are a lot of free speech absolutists who will say even inciting or threatening is just words. They don't hurt anybody. Most people right now accept directing someone, instructing them, in like telling them to do it, or actually doing it themselves, like threatening. You can't do that. That's illegal.
Right.
So if, like I said, if you were walking around, New York City screaming, I'm gonna do X to you, I'm gonna do whatever to you, the cops would come and be like, right this way, buddy. That's illegal. That's a threat. New York, they might just scuttle you along and say, get out of here, because they don't want to deal with it. In Chicago, they take it more seriously. In Chicago, if you threaten someone, like yell it, they very well may arrest you, because that's assault according to Chicago law. We could just do that. You got a problem with someone, you don't like their opinions, block. Bye-bye. Now I never see you again.
The government could take Minds code and start it. Just spin one up. They could easily do that, publicize the hell out of it. Biden has so much influence, he could just publicize
They don't want to.
and then make it all about law. Make it a
Listen,
legal
listen.
thing.
The big corporations would have all the power and say on there too, because that's one of the reasons why the government's not doing anything, sitting on their butts as people are losing their rights to free speech right now. And again, you don't need big daddy tech deciding what you can and cannot hear. Leave it to the law. We have libel laws, right? We have laws against threatening other individuals. Leave it to the law. We don't need tech oligarchs, unaccountable people deciding yes or no, you can and cannot say this.
What do you mean that the big techs would have control on that if the
Because
government spun up
again,
on
when you look
lies?
at the government, right? The government has been essentially bought and sold by the special interest, by the billionaire class, by the multinational industrial industries out there that, of course, do the bidding for them. If you think the U.S. government represents you, you're fooling yourself. They don't. They represent the people that they're friends with, that are super elitist, that are super rich, that cash their pockets with money. Those are the people they serve. So if the government creates something, who you think is going to get the most prominent voice and more control over everything? It's going to be them, obviously.
What organization would we use to enforce like free speech laws then, if not the government?
It's called free speech. You don't need to enforce free speech, Ian. Again, if you have local jurisdictions like in Chicago, like in New York, they usually handle the situation themselves. So if you have a jurisdiction and if you have someone that slandered you or libeled you, deal it through that system. That's just the simple way of doing it. Decentralization, not centralization, is the answer.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.